is Samantha Giordano Kim. I'm a Wildside Media contributor, and today I'm interviewing Sydney Huey, Emma Whitaker, Lydia Franklin, and Jordan Schneier of the Happy Daze Clothing Swap organization.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Yeah, we're super excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know, Sydney, you were inspired by clothing swaps taking place in New York City, and you launched your first clothing swap 2 years ago. And you and your team really wanted to address this need to create reselling community in DC. There was already a reselling community here, but expanding that community, expanding accessibility within DC. So can you talk a little bit just about your journey from your first swap to the swap that's coming up this weekend?
Yes, me and another woman who no longer lives in DC, we started the clothing swap at Malcolm X Park just to see what would happen. You know, we didn't even really advertise it too much, but we were like, if you have any clothes that you want to donate, feel free to like come and swap those types of clothes with other people and, you know, just see what happens. And when we first had it, you know, I had maybe like 5 blankets, maybe like 10 blankets, really not a ton. And we probably had like a turnout of like 50 people. And it was really fun. You know, I didn't do registrations. I didn't gauge any interest. I had no idea who was going to show up day of.
So walk me through, I've never been to a clothing swap. Walk me through what I might expect at a clothing swap. Does an attendee, or must they bring something else to swap, or can they just come to shop and collect? Like, what's the whole process?
Yeah, so when we first started, our whole concept was, you know, bring a bag, leave with a bag. But what we've found from our many swaps now is that we always end up with a ton of excess clothing. Of course, we want you to bring clothing. It only works if people bring stuff to swap. But we have had people reach out who maybe don't have the means or the accessibility or the time to figure out a way to bring things to swap, and that is completely all right as well. But I would say if you were coming to the swap for the first time, what to expect is really a little bit of a chaotic event, but we love it. It's very fun. The energy is really high, but it's really what you make of it. So you can have, you know, an experience where you're meeting people, you're really getting in there, digging for clothes. Pretty much you bring your clothes, you drop it wherever you find space, or you grab a tarp, which we provide. And then you just start browsing for yourself. So you know, sometimes like clothes get really like buried under the other clothes, so you can really
ready to dig.
Yeah,
you
so
gotta
you can
be ready
really
to dig.
people
like a
are on their
treasure
like
hunt.
hands and knees, and we love it. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely better to like get in there and check it out. But you can also like have a more reserved approach to the swap too. So if you're a more introverted person, you can come in and out and fully, you know, drop your clothes off. And I see people, you know, just walking around, not interacting with anybody, but, you know, snagging pieces here and there, which they like, you know, find interesting. So it really depends on what you make it. And then, you know, stay however long you want, leave with however much you want. We like can provide extra bags and stuff. We really encourage people to take as much as
At
you
the
can.
end, we're like, please take.
At
Please
the end, we're
take
pretty
the
much
clothes.
begging people to take stuff.
The more other people take, the less
Last
it is to
time
like
we
donate.
loaded everything in a friend's van, and we were dropping them off at clothing donation bins around the city, and people just random people in the city were like, "Are these free?" And we were like, "Yeah." And
In
we
the
were
streets.
passing out clothes to people. So,
We've had a lot of
we really
like,
encourage people to take.
yeah, I'm a teacher, and the last one we just had someone must have brought a ton of kids' clothes, which like normally isn't really the demographic. So I took a bunch of the kids' clothes and like gave them to my school. We've had like high school teachers before who I've seen come up and ask like, is it okay if I just take a ton of clothes for the students who need extra clothes? And we're like, of course, you know, because yeah, like Sydney said, we always end up with way more left behind than is taken.
Also, since it's grown, we've now had the opportunity to partner with some other organizations, so different like charity organizations and things like that. So that's been a good opportunity to add.
Who are some of the organizations that you donate leftover clothing to that you partner with now?
The main one I would say is we have donated most of our clothing to Martha's Table, but you know, we're always open to any recommendations, you know, local, whether you're in
Shelters,
Maryland, Virginia, the DC area, we're happy to drive it out to you because we have ended up with over 100 trash bags worth of clothing. And a lot of organizations, it's just too much. And they can't process that much or store that much. So we're always looking for recommendations for any local orgs. People have reached out to me like, I know this woman on Facebook who collects for her neighborhood and people that need it. And, you know, I'll save bags for them. Like this time, this person reached out to me. They're for their rugby team. They're collecting clothes for a fundraiser. And I was like, I'll reserve like 10 bags for you. So really,
Yeah.
all the clothes, we want to donate them to people who need them. So we're open to anything.
So, you know, when you might drop off clothing to a thrift store, there are rules, right? Things about, you know, can't be damaged, can't be stained. What are the rules of the swap?
Yeah.
No underwear.
No underwear,
Please,
yeah.
for the love of God.
I think like my big thing with the swap is like I want to lay my stuff down and see people take it. Like I feel such like I don't know if you guys feel this too. Like when I bring like
Yeah.
a cool thing that people are like, oh, and like want to grab. Like so I think everyone should kind of go into it with that energy. Like if it has a huge stain, a rip, a hole, like turn it into a rag. Like do something DIY with it. But like it's probably not the best like swappable item. So we really discourage stained, damaged, that kind of thing. And then just like used underwear, kind of gross. Like,
If you
We had a
think-
table
know?
of underwear.
Yeah.
If you think it would be gross, like seeing in a thrift store and you'd see it and you'd be like,
I'm
why
not
was
gonna
this
buy
donated?
this.
Maybe
Yeah.
don't bring it.
Yeah.
That's my personal philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, so speaking of like the don'ts, what are some of, let's go around and talk about some of your favorite swap finds. We'll start with you, Sydney.
My favorite swap find, there's been honestly
So
so many. I feel very grateful to have found, honestly, one thing in general, like that would be enough for me. Like, and since we've been doing it for so long, you know, I've probably gotten like 10 or so things. I try to really limit myself. I don't really need anything, but my favorite swap find was actually not even for myself. I found this amazing bomber jacket that was my mom's favorite color. And I just saw it in a pile. It was like bright yellow in a sea of like random other colors. I grabbed it and I knew right away that my mom would love it.
That's so cute.
And so then I brought it home with her when I visited her last, and she loved it. And to be able to tell her, you know, someone, no, like it had a life before you and like they didn't want it anymore and now you, and she loves it and she wears it all the time. And so I would say that's probably my favorite swap find.
The biggest flex is when you're like, where'd you get that? And you're like, oh, I got it for free from the clothing
Yeah.
swap.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Specifically sourced from the clothing
Yeah.
swap that
Yeah.
I help organize.
Definitely.
Any
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah.
Well, and there is this, before we even continue, there is this stigma, right? Or at least there was, at least with my generation. Right? I'm an older millennial. And there was always this stigma associated with wearing used clothing. And I shared with Sydney recently that my mom took me to a thrift store and got me this vintage Huckapoo shirt from the 70s. And I loved it, but then I was made fun of when I wore it to school because it was
Yeah.
obviously not of the day. And I
Yeah.
feel like that stigma, it's been destigmatized with Gen Z.
Totally.
And
Absolutely.
I love that so much. And can you talk a little bit? Can someone talk to why you think that is?
I mean, I can talk about it just because I grew up with one mom that was really like, my mom that was like really, really thrifty, and then my dad who was like, absolutely not. Like, it doesn't matter how many times it goes to the washing machine, it won't be like clean enough for him. And I think a lot of it has to do with like certain degrees of like spirituality. If you feel like somebody's past is like in the clothing, that's what my dad was very focused on. And I think other people just have the good fortune to not have to be in that position. So I think the stigma of it being something that like people who are a little bit more fortunate can like choose to do it, that's different than like it being this sign of being like on a lower socioeconomic status. I think like the fact that people have the freedom to now choose to do it is a huge lift on the stigma. I think if it weren't that way, it might not be reflected in the same way. But I think that's something that's like really deeply rooted in older generations.
And what about for Gen Z? Why do you think that's changed for your generation?
But
My hot take is that it has to do with mall culture. And I think like when we grew up, we were very much in like the mall culture of like you needed to go to Abercrombie, Hollister, American Eagle, and like have like the newest, you know, name brand thing. And I think like that culture has kind of died off and it's more about
That's a good
having like
point,
a
yeah.
unique, cool thing that no one else has.
Yeah.
Instead of like, and maybe that also is to do with social media, like
I
being
think
more
there's
unique.
so many factors.
It
Yeah.
used to be like everyone is wearing this same polo top, like perfect. And now it's like, oh, someone's wearing the same thing as me. Like I want to be kind of
Yeah.
a different style and aesthetic. And I think that has kind of shifted to push people more towards vintage and thrifting because it's
Yeah.
no one's gonna have the same thing as you.
Yeah, I think our culture now celebrates more like diversity and uniqueness, whereas when we were growing up, it was more like everyone
Cookie
being the
cutter.
same.
Yeah.
It's also
And I think social media has had an impact on that. I think that, just that idea of like finding your unique fashion and having a unique look is definitely something that's more popular now
Yeah.
among
Exposure
Gen
is
Z.
such a good point because like with social media, you're not being introduced to like these different kinds of styles. You're not living in like the Abercrombie echo chamber that some of us grew up in. So like you see that there is
Yeah,
other
you like
things
see an
out
ad
there.
or a
Yeah.
magazine, and then you're like, I want to look like that.
Yeah, or you like
Yeah.
see
Now you
somebody in
see
New
people
York
on
and you're like,
TikTok who's wearing like the craziest thing you've
And
ever
they're just, like,
seen,
normal people.
and you're
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
want to dress like that.
There's
you know?
something validating about seeing people do whatever they want if you like don't see it in real time in front of you because you grow up someplace that's like secluded or like you are just very like surrounded by people who are very similar to you and like that's what you're used to.
Yeah.
And if you see some crazy girl on TikTok wearing something absolutely insane or like some of the really like avant-garde fashion choices that are made for like Fashion Week and look at it and be like, oh, I can do that. I
Yeah.
think that's also a huge contributing factor to
Yeah.
to Lydia's point.
It's interesting to note social media, right? Because on the one hand, you have the fast fashion TikTok trends that are sparking Gen Z to buy and consume. And then on the other hand, you do have this growth of resale market and individuality. And we talked a little bit about not wanting to wear the same outfit because you don't want to have this repeating content with the same outfit. With your clothing swaps, do you feel like it's a very specific kind of customer profile or like attendee profile that comes to these clothing swaps where they would not buy from like a Brandy Melville or Forever 21 or these are they anti-fast fashion or are you seeing a mix of both?
I would say that we see a mix of both. I definitely think that a lot of the attendees are anti-fast fashion, but you know, I still think that you would get a range of people that are willing to buy those brands. And I think that, you know, something that's really great is that people are shedding brands that maybe I wouldn't buy today, but then I see people so excited about the brands that I'm putting down. And I think that that's like one great like cycle of the swap too, is that, you know, if we were all anti-fast fashion, we would all at the end of the clothes that we'd end up donating would all be Shein. So it's really nice to be able to like have people like pick up really great basics and other things like that from the swap. I would say it's a mix.
It's super diverse.
Yeah.
Like men's clothes, women's clothes, children's clothes, range vintage to new.
And like doing it in the park too, there's so many people who are just like taking a walk with their dog who then
they're
are
just
like,
what are you doing?
what are you guys doing? Like, and they come in and join and like are actually participating too, which is so
Yeah.
fun.
And I don't know about you guys, but as like a vintage seller who pretty much like I don't think any of us have really shopped much fast fashion or even like any sort of retail store or e-commerce in years,
Yeah.
except when buying like very specific items. I never expect friends or like everyone to not to do it the way that we do it. Like I don't expect people to never buy from fast fashion, but I think if we can change like maybe a few instances of where people are going to a swap or going to a market instead of buying something new online, then that's a huge win.
Yeah, I'm stoked to offer an alternative, but I'm not gonna shove my buying practices down your throat.
Lydia, you have a knack for sourcing vintage and you sell vintage, correct?
Yeah.
Your Evolve Vintage is the name of your business. At these clothing swaps, will you bring some of your vintage finds or do you reserve that for only your market and selling?
It kind of depends. I feel like a lot of times I'll pick stuff up at the swap and then I won't end up using it as much as I thought I would, and I'll bring stuff back that I've gotten from a previous swap, or I'll bring stuff from my shop that hasn't sold that I'm looking to like get rid of. So kind of a little bit of both.
So people who are coming looking for vintage might find vintage with
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
but they might also just find something more contemporary and current. There's runs the gamut. it seems
Yeah,
like.
Yeah.
totally.
Okay. And what's the best find you've ever come across at a swap?
I got at the last swap, I think I got this vintage rugby shirt that's like green, like
I saw
forest
that. I
green and
remember you
maroon
picking
red
that up.
striped with a denim collar. It's like the coolest thing ever, and I wear it all the time. And it had a stain on it, and I think maybe that's why someone got rid of it. And I washed it, and it just came out.
Funny how that works. When people wash things.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then Jordan, what about you? What's your favorite swap find?
my favorite swap line is also something that Lydia picked up in the last swap. She got this really cute mini skirt where it's like not even something that I would like maybe think that I would like look good in, but just seeing her holding it and seeing her like glowing, I was like,
You can borrow it.
stop, you're gonna regret saying that. It's what she picked up. It was just, it's so cool seeing other people pick up stuff and just like love it, and you wish you had found
It's
it first.
cool seeing what people find.
Yeah.
And you're like, how?
I was
Then
like-
you see that and you're like, all right, I
Yeah.
need to get back in there.
Yeah, I
also-
need to go dig.
I go to swaps for like, I look at fabric a lot, and so like even if I pick something up that like doesn't, like if I pick up like baby clothes that I can't fit in, I'm like, look how cute this fabric is, so I'll bring it home for that reason too.
I definitely want to talk about that because I think what's really interesting, again, with I think Gen Z specifically, is you're not only thrifting or sourcing vintage, but so many of you are also redesigning, and that's something I know that you've done quite often and are incredible at. So can you just
Thank
talk
you.
a little bit about your decision making around designing? Like, what trends are inspiring you? How do you decide to come up with the design?
Absolutely. Do you want to say what your favorite swap item is first?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. I just like, I grew up sewing, again, to credit my parents. So like my grandma was a quilter, so I just like grew up kind of learning how to do it, and it just kind of evolved from there, where I had a friend give me a sewing machine, and like that's how I learned to sew. It's really been based on the generosity of the people around me and just pure luck.
Will you bring items that you've designed to a swap, or do you reserve, even if you're not wearing them anymore, or do you reserve those for yourself, for your personal archive?
I will donate anything that like I don't wear. So like the swap is a good excuse for me to go through my closet, and if I made it, I'll bring it. If I didn't make it, I'll bring it. If it was my boyfriend's, I'll bring it. Like, it doesn't matter. If it's taking up space in my apartment and I don't wear it, I'll bring it.
And Emma, you are a teacher. You document your outfits of the day.
Yeah.
Your that you wear in the classroom on your Instagram handle, Clothes Emma Wore.
Yeah.
What guides your style? Because there's a very wide range, and I
Yeah.
love how you also play into school themes like pajama day, and then you have this
Yeah.
like, vintage Victorian pajama
Yeah.
outfit.
Yeah. So I think like I grew up like thrifting always, and I always loved the idea of like changing my style constantly. I don't think I like pigeonhole myself into any particular style because I like just being able to like switch it up. And I think thrifting and like the swaps is like how I can do that. I couldn't go to a store and actually like buy, you know, things full price and switch up my wardrobe in that way. So that's kind of how I got into it originally when I was younger. I think I definitely, you know, I'm still wearing like teachery outfits. Like I need pockets, I need comfortable pants that I can like bend down in. So my like weekend outfits versus my teacher outfits of the day are very different. But I do love wearing really like fun, colorful things that are exciting, and finding like fun things that kind of match whatever we're learning about. Like if we're doing a butterfly unit, I'll wear butterfly earrings. If we're doing like a math activity, I'll wear like math things. I think that's really fun. Yeah, it's just fun to play around, and the kids are never gonna say my outfit looks weird. They're always
Comment on it? Are they?
I was
Do
going to
they
ask
say
you.
sometimes they're like, "Wow, you're wearing a look," you know, like they're just like, "Whoa," or especially if I wear a dress, they're like, "Oh my gosh." Yes. Yeah.
Princess
That's
Emma.
so sweet.
Definitely if
really
I do
cute.
anything like too crazy, they're like, "Whoa," but they're all wearing like pajamas and Crocs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you gonna say?
Your harshest critics.
Yes,
Yeah,
literally.
exactly.
Yeah,
They're
my
so
room
honest.
of 22. Yeah, they are very honest. That is true. They're like, I don't know about this one today. And I'm like, well, try again
They keep you
tomorrow.
honest.
They keep me honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the best find you've come across?
So when I was thinking about it, it's like one of my favorite finds is actually a white like bandage kind of top that I got that's like feathered, and the reason is because the reason the girl was dropping it off, I like talked with her as she brought it. She's like, "Oh, I just got married, so all of this white clothes, like it's kind of like that season of my wardrobe is kind of done, and I'm gonna get married." And so I was like, "Great, perfect for me." I think there's a lot of times in our life like that nowadays, like with me and pajama day, it's like I have to find something to wear for just this one thing, or like
You mean you're not gonna rewear your Victorian pajamas?
no. They would be horrible to sleep in, actually. I don't know how people did it. But like things like that companies tell us, like you need to buy an entire outfit wardrobe thing for while you're getting married.
And the
and then
bachelorette and the-
and all this
just
stuff.
like everything.
So to be able to like take that from her and then I have it like saved to where, yeah, at my bachelorette, so it gets a second life is really, that was one of my favorite finds.
I love that. That's so special. Okay, what what's next for you all after this swap? Like, what's and if there is no 5-year plan, that's totally fine. But what's the vision? What's the goal? What's the dream? Is this to turn? Is it an online business? Is it to go, regional or global? Like, what's the dream? Is there a dream?
I think that we're just having a good time doing it. Like, I don't think that we've ever really talked about the future of the swap. I know that, without even talking about it, we want, like, our goals are to continue to put on, like, an amazing free event for the community. And, having it grow is really amazing. But I don't think that we have any plans to take it larger than DC. We're not trying to monetize it in any sort of way. I think our hopes are really just to continue to, like, provide, a fun, sustainable event for the people in the DMV.
Do you have events planned beyond April 13th?
We do have some dates in mind for some future swaps. We have not nailed down all the details for it yet, but we're always trying to put it on as much as possible with our schedules and just with making it work for 4 organizers. And it's a little bit hard, but we definitely have some things in the lineup, and we're hoping to do it as much as possible while the weather is good.
And always in Malcolm X Park for the time being.
Yeah, okay. We did do one in a different location just because there was a huge demand for it in the winter. Yeah. We had never done one before in the 2 years that we've been running the swap. It was mostly just because at the fall swap, people, we were like, okay, we're gonna take a break till spring, and people were like, no, like there was like a riot. So we wanted to, give people the opportunity to do it in the winter. But I think for now, Malcolm X, it's where we started. It's an amazing space.
It's the only space big enough right now to really fit everyone, because our last outdoor one it took up like half the park.
And even our indoor one was too small, honestly. Yeah. So I think that Malcolm X Park for now.
Have there been any members of the DC community that have been really instrumental to these swaps being successful or to the growth of the swaps, or any businesses, people, partners?
There have been quite it's all about promoting the swap, and we really appreciate any single person, whether it was an organization or a single person, who has helped us share the swap and really lift us up on that. But I would say that Carolyn at Finding Your Good and DC Goodwill has really been a champion of ours. Even though we've only partnered with Goodwill once, she has always shared, and we really appreciate it.
She's a rock star,
and so she's helped us find other people to donate to. So we really appreciate her help on that. I'm sure there's other people that we're forgetting, but it's been definitely a journey in the last 2 years. But we are really grateful for any single person that has helped us out, whether it's like volunteering or sharing or coming.
We get a lot of great volunteers, and there's people that will just stay and help clean up, which is really great. And I think the community in general is pretty uplifting and supportive and very encouraging of these types of things. And Sydney obviously has like a big Instagram presence and always is posting about other swaps and other events going on. So it is nice to see that kind of collaboration and promotion.
And there's one member who's part of your team who's not here with us today, Liza Banks.
Yes.
Campagna.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Liza Banks Campagna is not here. She's in New York City. She's pursuing a stand-up career.
Yeah.
But what will her role be for this for the swap?
She is just coming and hanging out, and she's definitely going to help out. She's bringing her car, which is big, and we appreciate it. But, since she's moved to New York, we're sad to have her leave. But she is actually starting one up in New York with one of our other friends that sells vintage. So if you're in New York and you're watching this, definitely check their swap out. But she's going to come hang out, maybe not play as big of a role on Saturday, but we're happy to have her.
Yeah, I love that. And then we'll end with just the unicorn. What's your vintage swap unicorn? What are you on the pursuit for? And we'll ask each of you that.
Like something we're looking to find?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question.
I'm always looking to find cool stuff for my fiance. Just because I've gotten him into, he did not grow up doing any of this, but now is like, he's gotten like a bunch of like soccer, like football jerseys at the swaps. And he like gets so into it now because he's like, oh my gosh, this is like a 1994 this team jersey. This is so crazy. Someone would bring this. And like, so I just want him to like keep getting good stuff because I think like it's really fun to see him like get into it. That would be my hope for him.
That's
I hope
so
he gets.
sweet.
That's also amazing that you're kind of like, that's how you're expanding your impact, right, on other, you know, whether it's your significant others, partners, parents, young children, just kind of expanding the awareness around reselling and thrifting and swapping.
Yeah.
I love that.
I never, like, I don't go in, like, looking for anything just because I'm a big you don't know until you know person. So if I, like, see it in front of me, I'm like, I have always wanted this, but I could not tell you right now what that is. But I would agree with you, whereas, like, finding stuff for other people, like, I know I keep talking about my mom, but, like, if I find anything for her, I'm like, she's going to love this. And, like, that's the best part, like, picking something out, especially because I have so many clothes. I don't need any more. So it's fun to, like, find things for other people.
Yeah, whenever you go into the swap or even into the thrift store looking for a specific thing, you never find it. It's kind of the items will find you. So I don't know if I have anything. Usually I go to the swaps and I'm like, I'm not going to take anything home today. And then I end up with a bag of stuff.
A tale as old as time.
Yeah, that is that
Happens
kind
to
of.
the best of us.
Sydney?
You know, I completely agree with Lydia and Jordan on, you know, I'm trying to not pick up anything because I am also trying to let go. But if I do find something, I feel like it's found me. Normally, I try to not even really look until the very end when we're like really cleaning up the scraps. But I guess if anything, I've been really into vests lately. So I feel like I've just like,
You don't
I
say.
zero into a vest because I just think that they're such an amazing way to accessorize an outfit, and they're great for different seasons. So maybe like another unique vest, but I honestly get more joy out of other people finding stuff. Like I would rather, if I pick something up and I like find something amazing, I would rather someone else, like an attendee, find it first because I would honestly prefer someone else to have a really amazing story and experience with the swap than I thrift so much and like, you know, I don't necessarily need anything. And so I would rather other people find something great.
That does happen where someone finds something cool and then it's
Yeah.
like everyone tries it on and we're like, okay, who's taking it
Who's
home?
taking it?
And I think that that's such a great part of the swap too, is that everyone is like in such like a giving, like happy
That's what it's all about,
mood.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it really is like, we have people like trying stuff on and people will be like, this one doesn't fit me. Like who wants to try it on? And it's a really great like community, like event
Vibe.
in that way.
And where can people learn more about your upcoming swaps?
Probably just Instagram. We all post about it, so any of our Instagrams would be the best way.
And what about volunteers? If someone wants to volunteer, how do they sign up? Do they just show up?
Just show
They
up and
could just
stay.
show up
Yeah.
and stay
You just
till the
come.
end,
Yeah.
or
Say
if
hi
they
to
want
us.
to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did.
We're always the people
I just didn't
yelling.
leave one day, and now I'm here
Yeah.
at this table.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Stay at the end. If you want to DM us with questions, we're happy to answer them. But you'll find us, you know, we kind of always sit in the same place. I bought a megaphone, so we're pretty obvious on
Yeah.
who the volunteer or who the organizers are now. So any volunteers, we're happy to have them.
Perfect. And your Instagram, there is no Happy Days Instagram, right? It's just your personal Instagrams.
Yeah.
So it's the Disco Loft.
Yeah,
Right?
the
All
dis-
one word.
all one word, the
Sydney is
Disco
at the
Loft.
Disco Loft. Lydia.
Evolve.vtg.
Jordan.
Thrift store drawer.
And mine is closed. I'm a war.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, thank
Thank
you
All
for
of
you.
having
it
us.
with
Thank
us at
you.
Wildside. We're so excited. I might have to come to my first swap this weekend.
Man, please do. That'd be so
come
fun.
sure.
We'll show you how it's done.
Yes, please. No underwear, I promise.
We'll know it's you.
Yeah.